Hello and welcome to this series of chakra trainings, chakra healing number 4. And in this hangout, we're going to talk about the heart chakra. I am Margarita Crystal Lotus. I am an intuitive life and business mentor who helps stressed and overwhelmed professional women overcome their emotional issues so that they can have satisfying relationships and careers. And with me here today, we have my co-host, Rosanna Martella. Say hi, Rosanna.
Hi, I'm Rosanna, and I am a sensitive intuitive with 20 years of experience in various modalities, like energy healing and health and nutritional counseling, and I do acupressure and distance healing, and I help people with more emotional blockages and also gluten intolerance.
So, Rosanna, in this series of chakra hangouts, we have discussed the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the solar plexus chakra, and now we come to the most important chakras of them all, and that is the heart chakra. So first, before we start to dive in the heart chakra, why is the heart chakra the most important, and what is the heart chakra all about?
Well, the heart chakra is the biggest chakra that we have. And it's at the center of our body. It's right in the chest. It's associated with the thymus gland, which the thymus gland it's also the controller of our lymphatic system. So it's the center of all the chakra, all the other chakras. There is 3 chakra above the 4th chakra and 3 chakra below. So there is need of balance that goes on within the heart chakra. The element of this chakra is the air. And so we went from the basic chakra that it was soil, then the emotional of the 2nd chakra that was the water. Then we got to the fire of the 3rd chakra that it united the first two elements of the 1st and the 2nd chakra and brought it up to the heart. Now the heart has to bring down the other elements that come from the 3 chakras above and put it all together in this bigger chakra that is the heart chakra. The developmental stage of this chakra is between 4 and 7 years old. Mm-hmm. And during this time, the child starts to form friends and different relationship with the other people, the family, and it develops a persona.
Yeah. So, what are the needs? What is the requirements of the heart chakra? What does the heart chakra need?
Yeah, the basic needs and the basic rights. It's love and be loved is the first important thing, that it makes this chakra more balanced. It's to have a good balance of love and being loved. Then there is the balance gets formed, and then there is self-love and relationship love and intimacy and devotion and all of the other forms of love. But the heart chakra, it's so important, but sadly the chakra is easily damaged because it's diminished and wounded by the way we are treated as little children. These wounds have a profound importance on the spirit and the soul, and it impacts our very core self. So,
can you give an example of something that could happen to a child?
Well, yes. You see, all forms of child abuse are a form of thievery of love. There is an absence of healthy love because, children are being spanked and abused, sexually molested and punished severely smattered, and it's all because, and they always been told, oh, this is because I love you so much. This is usually what the adults do. They try to bend the will and trying to manipulate the way they interact with their children in way that, we have to understand that probably the parents or the caretakers have problems with love as children when they were children their own. So most people don't know what a real balanced love is. So they don't even know how to give it to their own children. So this is what happens when this love, it's misunderstood, and this basic element in life is twisted. It's used in the wrong way, just in order to have control. So without knowing what a healthy love is, how can we make a healthy love for ourselves in our life?
So that's really important facets to know about. Like, if a person have a problem like this and was abused, then you have to go back and heal it. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Yes.
But what I want to know now is why balance and intimacy is so important in this chakra?
Well, it's important to learn to give love to others in order to experience better ourselves. So balance is the most important thing of the heart chakra. Since the heart chakra is the middle point of the system of all the other chakras. And this implies both internal balance between the various aspects of ourself, like the mind and the body, the persona and the shadow, the male and the female, and also is a balance between ourself and the world around us, and work and play, giving and receiving, socializing and being alone. All of this comes to play within the heart chakra, because this is the center of integration of the spirit and the mind and the body and the soul. So finding equilibrium supports this basic issue of love and relationship. But there is two types of relationship: the ones that we have with ourselves, and the other relationship that we create with others. So we get to, in order to have intimacy, we first have to have a sense of that in ourselves. We need to be intimate with our own inside, with our own self interior. And only after we honor ourselves within, we can then be honoring the self within another. So that is a very a most common block of the heart chakra is the absence of self-love.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so we talk also about the balance between the mind and the body. Like if the head and the heart is separated. Talk about that too.
Yeah, but first of all, it's like if we don't respect ourselves and we don't learn to be with ourselves and to respect and love our own needs first, then we cannot be with another person in that way. The mind and the body, it involves this inner listening to our own self. And after we listen and we communicate this with the subtle communication that it comes from our body and it comes from our own intuition, then only if we go and listen and learn to listen to our own inside little voice, then we are able to recover old memories and old traumas and work through them to clear them and to get rid of all those terrible things that were done to us when we were little. So
I wanted to interrupt here because when a trauma has happened, right, isn't that separating the head from the other part, and then those two parts are
well, but this is what is the problem, because this, you see, the heart chakra is in the center, okay? So it's getting the vibrations from the bottom three chakras, that there are more material, that there is the emotions, there is all of that. And then the top three chakras, that they're more subliminal, they're more, the mind, it's different, it's not as much as material, it's more symbolic ideas and things that they come down. So it is only by integrating those two energies coming from the top and the other one coming from the bottom, when the heart chakra is balanced, then this energy can intermingle between them, and then the real healthy human being comes out of this. But there is another thing that is important, and it's the sacred marriage between the balancing of the masculine and the feminine. Because, you know, there is nobody that is all feminine and nobody that is all masculine. We have both within us. We have a primary, like if we're women, our primary personality is feminine, but then we have the secondary personality that is the masculine, and we learn this through the interactions of our parents, because that's where we first begin to understand that there is a different of gender here, but it is also a different gender inside of us, because, you know, there is only that little difference of an X and a Y, you know, to make a female or a male. So we have both. It's just that a woman has predominantly more female, then a man has more masculine sense. So there has got to be a balance between the feminine and the masculine. If there is no balance between these two forces, then usually a person has a problem, a crisis at the time of midlife. Most people and most marriages fail in the middle of the life of a person's life, around the 40s and the 50s. This is what happens. But that's because that masculine and feminine balance, it's off. And most people, that they don't have their balance right within themselves, between the masculine and the feminine, they don't see that it's their own problem. They project it on the other person. And by projecting on the other, they're, you know, they convince that it's the other person the problem, so they get up and leave. Mm-hmm. You know, and I saw this with my husband. You know, and then there is the other person that maybe it's not willing to leave, and so it resigns the miseries. And then, you know, if there is two people that resign the miseries, then we have these marriages that go on forever in misery. You know? Right. So there is got to be the right balance between the masculine and the feminine, and we learned that from our parents.
So we learn everything from our parents. How about how to handle the emotion of grief?
That is another one. Grief is it's like a stone on the heart chakra. Grief is, it closes the heart. It's when grief is denied, we become numb to our feelings. We're not alive. We become, we're hard and cold and rigid and distant, and we feel like dead inside. And when grief is acknowledged, then we expand. We're feeling lighter. We are able to breathe better. The um, tears are shed, and we're able to lighten up, and then we start to see hope. Because usually, when we're in grief and we're closed up, we lose hope in anything. So that it's where it's coming in terms with our own grief leads us to compassion for others. So I feel like grief is important because it is only after we suffer and we know how we get in touch with our own pain that we are able to have compassion for the pain of others. So
I like that. I agree with you very much that unless a person have experienced some pain, and you in fact have said that the grief is the demon of the heart chakra. What do you?
yeah,
What?
because if the person closes himself out, and it's like I've seen people that they lost their spouse, or they lost a brother or a sister or a mother, and then 20 years later they're still in grief. They haven't let it go. And it's like I feel like, okay, well, you haven't figured out that this is the way life works. That's where I don't see how can people be so closed into the fact, okay, yeah, that person maybe should have lived a few years more, or there was a very bad illness and it took that person away from us in an early age. But life is the way it is, and we have to accept it, not fight it. But when we fight, grief becomes like a stone. I said it closes the heart, and when the heart is closed, you are close to life. Life doesn't have any more meaning for you because you're not allowing to expand your love and your connection to others. Life is always changing. And I have my niece, my brother's daughter, that she wrote to me and she was saying, oh gosh, I don't feel like I want to live. I'm just closed up. And I wrote back to her and she says, everything is changing. I'm not liking it. And I wrote back to her and I said, excuse me, life is change. Without change, we would be very, very bored to death doing the same thing over and over again. So I said, you better put a smile on your face, even if you don't like it. And keep on smiling from the moment you wake up in the morning until you go to sleep at night. And eventually, that joy will start to come back up. Because
it's the joy, right? That's a result of a good heart chakra, a healthy heart chakra. And other emotions, like complex, subtle emotion, is something called like compassion and devotion that creates a very amazing state of mind inside of the heart. Yeah. Can you describe how you could actually get into that?
Yeah, well, I want to talk a little bit how the ego gets into play into this compassion state. Because when the ego, it's secure of its own autonomy and power, then can surrender willingly towards our altruism and to help others. The needs of others can get met when our needs are met. So the ability to have compassion for others depends on our ability to be in touch with our own pain and our own interior self, and the things that happen to us in our own life help us to see others in a better way too. So compassion is a wonderful balance of the upper and lower chakras. This is my dog barking. So
yeah, we have to accept all interruptions, right? And then we're just smiling.
Yes. So anyway, compassion means we have to, it doesn't mean that we have to fix things in others. It means that we can help others and we can be present with others, and we can be given assistance even if we are not completely able to fix the other person.
Mm.
So that is what compassion is. Well, devotion, it's a whole different other thing, because it's the act of self-love that surrenders to a greater force.
Mm.
So it's like we really don't know what it is to have a child until the moment that we have a child. And so to become a parent, it's like this experience that it becomes a selfless devotion to this newborn little baby that transcend all limits of what it was possible within us in terms of loving and giving. So that it's devotion, or it can be devotion to God, devotion to the higher, the greater forces of the universe, you know. So that it's another thing that it's important, and it can only come from a clear, open chakra.
Mm. You've talked also about the developmental formation. That's a little tricky term.
Yes.
What is it, first of all, and what's required?
All right. The development formation of a baby, of a child, is never smooth. It's always always got problems. It depends in part from the successes that we achieved by the previous stages of the other 3 chakras below. And then, unfortunately, many people do not reach the upper chakra stage because of all the problems that they encounter in the lower chakras development. So this marks the formation of our social identity and what it's known as our persona. So it's when our development, this relationship expands from one to others and to englobate bigger amount of people. You know, we go from the sisters, the brother, classmates, and neighbors, and friends of all kinds. And so this is where the child adopts beliefs and values of their friends and their relatives. And it's how they develop this, they carry this attitude that they learn from others. I remember when I was a child that all of the sudden I discovered that I would start to talk like my girlfriend. And I was like, why am I doing this? You know, it was like I was copying other people and then bring their ideas within me and make it my own. And that was like very strange to me. But then when I started studying the Hearth Chakra, I realized that that was part of my developmental stage. We started to learn more from all the people that we come in contact from, and we think that they're better than us, or they know more than us. So that's one thing that happens.
And so you mean that we adopt other people's behavior and try to model after them because we think that they're a role model?
We like that idea of what they're saying and what they're projecting on us, and we wanted to make it our own. Or we're getting in more and more information to make this social identity that the child needs to reach in order to get in contact with the larger world. So it's like all of this information is coming in, and at this this time, there is this developmental, intellectual development that is really going into leaps and bounds, because it's bringing in more and more information and more things to that the child is creating himself, within himself, these new concepts and new ways of growing a personality. So but there is also this thing that it's like the conditional, depending on how much conditional love we had when we were smaller, like between 3, 4, 5 years old, that then the person is able to adapt and get all this new information and makes it a personal, that has a lot of balance within the heart chakra. Because if all that conditional love that have been given to us, it distorted the idea of what real love is, and many adults will not even get to get to the point of having a very balanced of fourth chakra because of that. They remain stuck in their narcissistic ego gratification thing of the third chakra. They never get to open up. So adult development of the heart chakra is a transcendence of the ego and an integration of the higher and lower chakras, creating the sacred marriage between the masculine and the feminine, and developing a social empathy and altruism. That's what we really believe and want to achieve. But of course, that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, and when that doesn't happen, or when there is outright abuse or traumas in there at the critical age of when the heart chakra is developing, or any chakra for that matters. So can you talk a little bit about what trauma actually does to the heart chakra?
Yes. Lack of love is devastating, because love integrates and lack of love disintegrates. Without love to bind us together, we separate from the parts of ourself that drives love away. So we reject the needy parts, the angry parts, the ugly parts. We then are no longer whole. And most of the abuses occur within the context of the family and relationships. So we shut down to the connection and close the heart and pull back into ourselves. And that's not the right way to do it, but it is literally heartbreaking when we trust and love like a child does for his caretakers, and that love is used against him. You see, an adult, when an adult has a relationship that it's untrustworthy, the adult can get up and leave. But the child is still in need. It cannot get up and leave. So he has no choice. He needs to stay there and deal with it, and he is not fully developed to deal with this kind of abuse. So the effects of this mistreatment occur simultaneously in 3 levels. The first level is the experience of abuse, which may create traumas that distorts the natural development of the body and the psyche in any of the chakras. The second one is the interpretation of the abuse, because usually when a child gets abused like this, he doesn't project that the abuse is their problem, it's their fault. He thinks it's all on his side. He has the problem. It attributes his own shortcomings to himself. So that is a terrible thing to do to a child. And then the fusion of the abuse with love, where the two becomes related to each other. So, and they're inseparably linked. So the person perpetuates this abuse even in the relationship when he gets in his adulthood. So that's what abuse does. It's a very bad cancer, actually, that does this. It abuses the antithesis of love, and it stops the natural development process. It interferes with the internal wiring of a person, because you cannot have love and abuse and have it together. You really got to fly there.
So when there is abuses like that, what is the effects? You talk about internalized relationship.
Yeah, well, first of all, the child feels that he is defective merchandise because of it,
And then a bad person.
Yeah, and then the abuse interferes with our love for life. So life becomes a very painful experience and a process to be endured. And and then the way others that treat us teaches us about our values of a human being. Abuse makes us feel unlovable and feeling defective, and only adds to more shame. And we end up giving everything away to others when it's like that, because we feel like that if we give, then we are going to be loved back. But that doesn't happen, because we end up bankrupting ourselves, and still we're not getting loved. Actually, we become a burden on the other person.
Yeah. And then that creates very twisted concepts of love and all kinds of other things.
And you see, the way a mother treats herself, then we tend to treat the women that come in our life in the same way, because we project that this impairment on the women that we meet in life, and we find that we are relating more to, we don't realize that we're relating to our own damaged person. We treat the other, we project it in the other women. So our anger deepens, and it becomes a thing that it destroys us. And the way our father treats us, it happens the same way. We end up having an effect on the relationship that we have with men. So how we relate to the masculine qualities of aggression, authority, logic, and how we project these qualities into the men have a major consequences for our own relationships. Often we pick out the same kind of person that it was our parents, yet expecting to have different results. So we get this image of this person that we like, that it's a template etched in our nervous system, that it's the template of our parents, that we internalize, and we form this new person that we think we're going to love for the rest of our life. But then we don't realize that it's not going to work, because we want to make that person in a different way, because we don't even accept the way our parents were.
Right. So we have to really start over from the beginning, and when you have a person who has like a lot of energy in the heart chakra, or too low energy there, try to remedy that by actually taking energy from other people or giving other people. So how do we begin to heal that?
Well, there is this twisted concept of love that I feel like I need to talk about a little bit first. And because the child is so dependent, there is no room for the child in the child mind to be for the contradiction between love and abuse. So he kind of puts it all together, you know, and then there is the rejection. Rejection is a universal experience that wounds everybody. Fear of rejection is the prime reason why we hold back our love and close down our heart chakra. And our self-esteem gets down and we get depressed. That's all happens when we have been rejected from somebody. And a lot of times that happens at a very young age. And then when other people reject us when we're growing up, then it always brings back that feeling of being non-worthy, or, you know, and for a child when he's little, rejection is equivalent to death. That's why when I was little, around 5, 6 years old, I ended up getting so sick that I almost died because I felt rejected. So a child who is identifying with his parents, he will learn to devalue himself, even to hate himself, to the point that he doesn't want to live anymore. And some people, when they're rejected, though, they get hangry. And this is actually not as bad as the person that gets rejected and then closes up in himself. Because with this anger, we tend to bring, to do not be part of us. That anger is not, I mean, that rejection becomes not part of us. So we cease to identify with that rejection. And that causes us to open up and change and redefining within ourselves. So it's actually a better thing to be hungry than being passive.
Yeah, I agree with that, because at least when you're angry, there is movement inside, even though other people don't like that too much. But if we're just stagnant and depressive and apathic, then we have very little power to
that fire.
Yeah, I got this. This is my personal fly. I don't want to reject these flies, but they fly all.
I know. I noticed that they're really assaulting you. I think it's.
Yeah, I'm trying to be compassionate. You know, I said to him the other day, I'm gonna go and get this fly swatter now. But it's only 3 flies, and I can't get them out. Apparently, they like to be in here, but
I tend.
As I got the fly swatter out, they were nowhere to be seen, and then I was tired to hold this fly swatter, and I put it down, and they were right back. They're intelligent flies.
You have to wait at night when they get tired. Then you go around with the fly squad, or shut on the light and leave one light on. Then you can get them. That's how I do it.
So, but I don't want to kill anything. I just want them to go out.
So it is compassion alone that allows us to reconnect with ourselves and stop identifying with the one that we lost, or who has betrayed us or rejected us or devalued us. And so grief must be shed. And in that grief, the connection to the core self can be made once again. And that is the important thing. We have to be reconnected to our core. We have to love ourselves first. Then everything else comes. So you wanted me to talk about the excessive
Yeah, like how much energy, what is that excessive and deficient, or too much energy or too little energy in the
well, the
heart?
excessive chakra is of the heart chakra. It's not an excess of love, but it's an excess of the love for one's own needs. So excess happens when we overcompensate for our home wounds. And a excessive chakra, it's got a very strong movement outward, but it depletes the core, the center, you know. So a way to help to heal this type of chakra, and also a deficient chakra, is always with air. You know, air is the element, remember? So we need to learn how to breathe again, because with all we learned about the fourth chakra, there is a lot of stress involved with being treated badly, with being, you know, with all our incomprehension of how people treat us and how people acts with us. So we end up being stressed. And when we're stressed, we tend not to breathe, or not to breathe, have long breaths. We breathe very shallow. If we think about a baby when it's first born, he's nice and relaxed. His belly moves with every breath, goes up and down. Now, this is called abdominal breathing. The abdominal breathing is important even when we're adults, but we forget how to do that. And so what happens is we end up breathing only with our chest, and we are not using our belly to breathe. And so we're only breathing half of the air that we need to breathe. And also the diaphragm doesn't move. Now the diaphragm is down here. Do you like my shirt, says love?
I love that shirt. It's a very fitting shirt. And I put the green shirt on for the heart chakra today.
So the diaphragm, it's right here at a little above, between the third chakra and the fourth chakra, there is the diaphragm. Now the diaphragm, if we do abdominal breathing, the diaphragm moves with every breath. And as it does that, it kind of gives a massage to all the interior organs and relax.
I love that, to massage my internal organs. Yes.
Yes, it is. It's what it is. It happens that way. It's this movement, that it's vibrations that we are giving to our interior because we love ourselves. And it is by breathing and bringing in more oxygen that we get the lungs to bring that oxygen and put it into the bloodstreams and carry it through the whole body and all the cells. So deep breathing is extremely important. We can do meditation on a breath, just breathing slowly in as much as air we can get, and fill up our body like a big container, and then slowly release that breath very, very, very slowly. And then when we're done exhaling it all, we'll breathe back in again. If we do 10, 12, 15 minutes a day like that, it's extremely, extremely good for us. I remember when I was I was having problems sleeping during menopause. At 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30, I would wake up. Instead of being in bed, turning and twisting and bitching because I couldn't sleep, I would get up, go in my living room, get a big, big pillow, put it under my knees, get on my knees, and do abdominal breathing. But I was doing it for 2.5 hours every single night.
And it helps.
But not only it helps, but I would function perfectly throughout the day without having had 8 hours sleep. Actually, I was having like maybe 3 hours sleep top. And it helped me incredibly, because by bringing all that oxygen in and relaxing my body, like if I was sleeping, because when we sleep, That's why we feel better in the morning, because during the sleep we relax, we get off our mind, we get off our worries, and we get off all those things. If we don't have nightmares, we do.
Yeah, I
But
have a story to share about that too. I had a student, and she had a heart condition, and then all of a sudden, when we were talking, and she says, "I need to go now because my heart is going." And then I said, "Just sit down for 10 seconds," and then I showed her how to breathe, and then the palpitation was reduced, and she could call her husband, who came and picked her up. I mean, I saw in front of me a woman who has like really difficult with her heart, and then when she breathed, the pulse came down in a more natural fashion. And also, I've seen a man and another person I know who had panic attacks, and then by just breathing and massaging a little bit the diaphragm, he calmed down.
right, because the panic attack is fear, and fear blocks you. It paralyzes you. So you just like, you're not able to take a deep breath when you're that paralyzed, that stressed. And that is the problem, it's the breath. If we learn, we have to relearn how to breathe. I see it with many of the people that comes to me for treatments. When I put them on the futon on the floor and I say, okay, breathe, let me see how you breathe. And most of them, the ones that are the most sick, they have forgotten how to breathe abdominally. They have no idea how to do it anymore. But it takes me a little bit to teach them again. And then I send them home and I say, well, every day you got to do this. Every time you think about it, try to bring the air into your belly. And you see, with 1 or 2 days, you're going to be able to breathe the normal way again. But you have to make a mental decision to do it in the beginning. And it's only after you do it for a while then that becomes a normal thing, because that is the healthy and normal way of breathing. It's the way you were born with. A child's first breath, he knows how to do it, and a person 50, 40, 50 years old has forgotten it. It's impossible to do this. You know,
But
and then
it's a slow death, right? If we stop breathing, that's a slow death.
I mean, we can be without food for days. We can be without water for a day or two, but we cannot be without air more than a few minutes. So we need and we must breathe. And we must breathe, especially when we get up in the morning. Go near a window. If you're near the woods, near some trees and air, open the windows and breathe. Even in the wintertime, I go outside. I have a wood burning stove, so I go get my first wood in the morning, and I take these nice big abdominal breaths that bring in the day starts, and it's a healthy way to live. And if you really work with your breath, you can get rid of all the stress you have, and you can get rid of a lot of illnesses also.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that's important to know that the breath is the life force. You breathe in the life force with the breath.
That's why this chakra is important, because it's connected to air. Air, it's the most important element, the primer, the first thing we need to be in this body is to have a heart that beats, and the air that brings in the oxygen.
Okay, Rosanna, we're nearing the end of this hangout.
Yes.
How can we summarize what the heart chakra is all about in one statement? What would you say?
Well, we have to reclaim each part of our home in order to go within and love each other, and love ourselves first in order to love each other. And feelings are the antenna of our soul. So it is important to have feelings. It is important to reconnect with those damaged feelings that we're still holding on from way back then. But it's also important to let them go, love them, and let them go in order to open up our heart and love others. So, and then the breath, it's very important. And healing the heart chakra involves attending to the most vulnerable and sacred aspect inside of us. When we are at peace with ourselves, we are at peace with the world. And it is very important to understand that it is time to awaken from this dream that we are separate beings. We are all one. What it happens to one person and how that person reacts as an effect on the whole world. It's like they say, if a butterfly beats his wings in one part of the world, it affects the weather on another side of the world. So we're all connected, we're all one. So it is by treating us with respect and treating the world around us with respect, not only the people, but also the world, because we've been destroying the world with ourselves. So I want to read something that I get it from this group that I belong to, that I've been belonging for many, many, many years. And that it says, we are all one. Take the power of your heart and learn to love everyone, even your enemies, as yourself. That is the beauty of a united humanity that has moved to a higher place of consciousness, where there is no polarity of good and bad, just people loving people everywhere.
Thank you so much, Rosanna. That was a beautiful, it's a poem, right?
Yes, yes.
And so that was the heart chakra, and I hope you have had a great resource here to listen to when you watch this video. And so we're going to come back next time with the throat chakra.
Yes.
Until then, thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye-bye.